Well, good evening, brethren. I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce you to Worship Brother Bill Howie, a Scottish brother who spent most of his Masonic career in England and has now in the evening time of his life joined the Irish Constitution. Now, Bill, you're a member of Grand Masters Lodge and the Irish Lodge of Research, and we're delighted to see you back over here in Ireland amongst your brethren again. And we'd like to take this opportunity maybe to have a little brief discussion with you and learn a bit about your background and the things that brought you initially into the Masonic Order. Oh.
Well, thanks very much, Worship Brother Ashford. Can I say I'm delighted to be back in Ireland again. I think it's about 2 years because of what happened. Able to be back in operating. I was actually born on the 25th of April in 1928, actually when the sun was at its high meridian. My father comes from Howie Fife yeoman farming stock, and his parents died unexpectedly, and he, his brother and 3 sisters were left orphans. The sisters were taken care of locally. His older brother went to America, but my father ended up in the orphan homes of Scotland, from where in due time he joined the Argyll and Sutherland Highlanders, fought in the 1418 war, was taken prisoner at the Second Battle of Ypres. On my mother's side, my grandfather, William Crombie, was, with his great friend Willie Copeland, a scout messenger for Baden-Powell during the Boer War, but he was a master tailor, and his great friend Willie Copeland became a master baker. The family really all got settled, and when my dad came out of the army and was released as a prisoner of war, he worked on the Canadian Railways for a bit, which was very hard work. He came back, and because our family at that time, in fact, my grandfather's brother was Michael Nairn's first block cutter in the linoleum industry. And my dad then became a groundsman and then senior groundsman to Sir Michael Nairn on the Ravenscraig estate. In due time, that was passed over to the Kirkcaldy Corporation, and I was actually born in the West Lodge in Ravenscraig Park, very near to the Ravenscraig Castle, which, as you know, was one of the Sinclair strongholds. My early life was such. My father died when I was 7. At the end of that time, of course, I left school rather too early, at 14, because my widow and mother needed support. And I had various jobs, quite interesting. The last one with the Forestry Commission before I joined the City Edinburgh Parks Department. I did so purely to further my education. I was a club leader in the Working Lads Home in Edinburgh, and then I became a trainee assistant superintendent. By that time, my educational standard had got such that I was accepted for the Scottish Home Department's 2nd ever residential child care course. And my first appointment actually was as superintendent of the Remand and Psychiatric Observation Centre for Children for the whole south west of Scotland. During the course, my wife, who had been a governess to a wing commander's family and subsequently deputy matron at Dorchester Grammar School, was, when we met, deputy matron in the Working Lads Home in Edinburgh, and we actually got married in the middle of our course and did several placements together. She, after we qualified and I became superintendent, she was matron in Kirkland Park, that centre in Ayrshire, and we also had a very specialised unit which looked after children who were far too vulnerable to go to approved school. Subsequently, in 1961, I joined the Durham Probation Service. I enjoyed my work there. I specialised in approved school and Borstal aftercare. Actually, at that time I took the first parole leave from Rampton. My main interest in the area has been in criminality and, in fact, the whole of that mental health aspect. However, I was appointed then when social services came into being. I was appointed the first principal social worker in the town. When Cleveland came in, I was area officer, then senior area officer, and my final post was that of a principal assistant county director and for mental health for the Cleveland Authority. That was a tremendously interesting period, and I had overall contact. We brought in the approved social workers with the new Mental Health Act, of which I had part involvement. I had close contacts with Regional Health Authority and the 3 District Health Authorities, and actually also served on 3 national working parties in relation to my work. A time of change was coming. My wife had a long-term illness, and I got the opportunity then to retire, which I did. To keep my hand in, I actually became a member of the Community Health Council and subsequently served as chairman for 5 years. At the end of which period, I was one of the 4 laypersons in the country who was actually appointed as chairman of the local Research Ethics Committee, which put me very much in touch with that whole ethical range of modern medical research. That's very briefly a fascinating, interesting career which I thoroughly enjoyed.
Oh, that's good, and that comes across, I think, quite well for our viewers. But in that busy life, I'm sure you found some time for your Freemasonry, and I'd be interested to hear, firstly, had you any family connections with the Masonic Order, and secondly, a wee bit about what drew you in to the Masonic Order?
Well, my grandfather was a prominent Mason in Kirkcaldy, past master of Kirkcaldy 72. And my father, at his untimely death, was actually junior deacon of the Oswald O'Donoghue Care Lodge in Kirkcaldy. So I've always had that. In fact, my earliest recollection of Freemasonry was on an evening when my grandfather and father had gone to lodge, and I was allowed a 6-year-old to wait up to say good night to them when they came from the lodge. And I can always remember the supper table because they always had kippers, bread and butter and hot tea for their supper. But I was always intrigued when they came in because, as was the custom in these, they came in smoking an old clay pipe.
Oh yes, yes.
You know, the old churchwarden stem pipes. And the other recollection is when my grandfather, who stayed with us, in his bedroom was that picture of Burns's being made poet laureate and that sort of thing. That was something vivid. Now, when we were in Ayrshire and felt we were well settled professionally, our insurance man actually approached me to say, you know, would I like to join the craft and whatnots, and I was actually interviewed in the remand home area in our private quarters by the lodge committee, and that went well. They accepted that my father and my grandfather had been Masons, and I had some understanding of what the craft was about. Incidentally, the local butcher, our window cleaner, the local policemen were all members of the lodge, including the doctor who looked after our residents. So they then asked to see Margaret, my wife, and they said to her, look lass, this man of yours is looking to join the Masons. Are you happy with this? And she said, look, my father, my grandfather and his grandfather before him were all Masons. If he's not a Mason, soon I'll divorce him. So that was my introduction, and I was actually initiated, passed, raised, marked and exalted in Darvel. But professionally by 1961. I was initiated in 1960. I'm about 52 years in the craft now. I got the opportunity and I joined the Durham Probation Service and was posted to Hartlepool. Now, we had always intended to do 2 years there before moving down to an area my wife is familiar with, Dorchester.
Oh yes.
It's been a long 2 years, I'm still there. The lodge was fascinating. That well-known Scottish Mason, Thomas Armand McCall, was actually the director of ceremonies at my initiation and subsequent stuff.
Good, yes.
I learned very quickly in visiting the likes of Loudon Kilwinning and Burns Kilwinning and these places, that you were thoroughly tested by the old tailors and went through the proper Scottish way of testing and so on. But when I came down to London, when I came down here into Hartlepool, I was 2 days in post when I was summoned by the clerk to the justices. He was running a seminar for new magistrates, and he wanted me to join in as one of the new boys, which I did. And on leaving, I heard 3 magic words between him and two other new magic, you know. And they were installation, representative of the PGM. So I turned on my heels and I said, excuse me, I'm actually looking for a contact to the Masonic Hall here. And actually, he took me under his wing. Now, he insisted I visited each of the 11 lodges in Hartlepool before I actually made the choice of which lodge I would belong.
You join.
And I subsequently, in the Connaught Lodge, was master on 2 separate occasions. I've always enjoyed that aspect of my work. Now, after my wife died, my sister, who remained in Fife, I was very close to. So I was getting up to Glenrothes very regularly, and Hopakarachi was meeting and leaving, and I went along on one occasion. And when they moved into Kirkcaldy and that sort of thing, I linked up, and that's where I made these very solid contacts with Scottish Freemasonry once again. In that situation, I affiliated, and one of the joys of my Masonic life actually was where the 200 lads with very strong ties to Hopakarachi came in, and we had this marvellous rapport. I seemed to get on well with you guys very much, and subsequently as I started to visit Ireland and so on, I became first affiliated to 200, became a member of Grand Master's Lodge, and then a full member of 200. So that in a nutshell is the way I came into Freemasonry.
Well, that's always very interesting. One interesting thing which always intrigued me is how people find the degrees, how they find the story that's spun in relation to why we do what we do and how we do what we do.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how much it engages people's attention when they're getting their degrees. And I'm wondering how you felt going back that long, long way to when you got your degrees in the 60s.
Well, in the first place, the ritual and ceremonial of the Scottish First Degree, with its noises and its perambulations and that sort of thing, makes quite a lasting impression. The second degree seems to be played down a bit, though I think it really has a lot more significance than is sometimes attached to it. And then I was subject to the old traditional Scottish third degree, and I swear I still hold some of the bruises today.
Oh yes, rough and ready.
But it was quite a fascinating. But overall, looking back over 50 years, quite honestly, we are a very broad church. People come into the craft for many different reasons.
Well, that's true.
But to get the full value, and for a man to appreciate and understand, his ritual experience through the 3 degrees has got to be meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a great believer in the power of the positive cadence of the spoken word, so that the ritual is delivered correctly. I'm very conscious of the necessity of the precision of the knocks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also a great believer in the ritual movements being conducted properly. I mean, I think an excellent example actually is the way Irish deacons do their work. And I think the other thing about the whole thing is the value of silence.
Oh, yes.
Now, one of the things that in fact causes me concern is when you get little cliques chitting and chattering through a ceremony. That is about the candidate, and it is essential that full attention is given to the candidate and supported in every way, including these essential periods of silence. I was once at Cornerstone when Julian Rees gave a demonstration of the 3rd degree, and they used music, sound,
Mm-hmm.
silence, cadence, and beautiful movement in the appropriate way to make it meaningful to the candidate. And I think these are the things that are important. The other thing is, you know, there's great talk about mentorship and that sort of thing these days, and I think that can be very valuable. In my time, actually, there were 3 involved in mentorship: the proposer and the seconder, but the lodge as a whole.
Yeah.
So a candidate should never be left feeling isolated, but should be incorporated into the
very
world of
much
the
so,
church.
very much so.
That sort of thing.
I mean, one of the interesting things I know when speaking to Brother, and you join and you go through your 3 degrees, and then you have a period of reflection, and then you enter office and you work your way through the various offices. And as you work your way through the offices, you gain an experience, you gain in confidence, you gain in the ability to speak in a public to a group of people. And I mean, that's always some of the strengths that all brethren gain approaching the chair. They learn about public speaking, they learn about running a meeting, and they learn about minute taking and that aspect of it, and the importance of recording accurately what's taking place. And I'm just wondering, as you approached office for the first time, did you enjoy the challenge of all the extra responsibility, and did you find that it assisted you in your day-to-day life?
I mean, as a preamble, Bob, can I say that I have seen men hesitant being transformed.
Oh yes.
For the time, you know, really transformed, both in their ethical points of view and in their personalities.
Mm-hmm.
But in my day in Hartlepool, when I started out, we were at least 6 years as stewards before we got anywhere near the floor. And in that time, in fact, you got to know the visiting brethren, they got to know you, you got to know your own members and that sort of thing when you served. And in these days, where the tables were, company was quite large, once the stewards had finished and the coffee served, we actually went to a side room and had our meal on our own. And we did all knife and fork rituals, that sort of thing as you do. So that was always a very good experience. Serving brethren, knowing brethren, learning about brethren, their little peccadillos, their attitudes and so on. I think one of the outstanding things I remember in my very early days was the furore that arose when our 6-course installation banquet was raised from 2 shillings to 2 6pence.
Well, that's it. Well, interesting enough, I mean, one of the the great things about Freemasonry, as you know probably better than I do, is that in many ways when you become a Freemason, you set off on a journey of self-discovery. And as you pass through the various degrees and you get various levels of responsibility and you have varying involvements in the province and a Grand Lodge, it does, as you quite rightly say, give you a new view on life and a view on your fellow man and how you work with each other.
Yes, but I do think this can run parallel with other directions. You know, I have a number of other quite significant interests as
yes,
well.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I always feel that Freemasonry has always been supportive, but not intrusive in these other aspects of my life. I've always been interested in the healing side of the martial arts.
Yes.
I've done training in Japan.
Oh, yes.
And I've done, actually I trained the Rankashian in the Japanese Gendai under Dao Sensei, and I got that final accolade in Madrid in Spain, actually. I've always been interested in holistic health in all its manifestations. Yes. I've always had a keen interest in mental health, and that was one of the themes even in my community health consultation, that sort of thing. But I think the biggest thing that mattered to me was that, you know, about 4 years ago, I was confirmed as having cancer. A lot of my strength actually came from my local lodge brethren and for folk like your good selves in Ireland and Scotland, who gave me a lot of strength and support through what was a fairly difficult time. And having come through it, and that sort of thing, great. And of course the other aspect was the tremendous help I've had from the 3 Grand Lodges and the libraries and museums in my interest in Masonic research in many aspects.
Well, one interesting question for a man now who has a lot of experience in our order. Have you any words of advice for a young man who may be considering, maybe on the cusp of joining a lodge or mulling over whether he should join a lodge, or do you, are there any particular aspects that you would highlight to him?
Well, I think one of the first things that's got to be said is so-called secrets. And the internet and the wide world situation, that sort of thing. And I don't care which orders, which degrees, or how much paper stuff you had. You may think you know, but Freemasonry is an experiential, life-changing thing. And until you have had the experience, you do not really know.
That's correct. That's very true. I mean, one of the interesting things I always have had an interest in for a number of years is our interrelationship with society as a whole. I've always been of the view that Freemasonry is a part of society, not apart from society, and I think in many ways we enhance and encourage various other aspects of social life in our towns and villages where we have our meeting places. And again, I'm just wondering, have you any views on our greater benefits through our charities and our non-Masonic charity supports for the work that we do to assist others?
For far too long, we haven't responded to various forms of criticism. However, let me give you an example. We've had 2 very successful open days, and a number of folk become interested in actually becoming Masons through these. We also impact on the community. In my current Health Lodge in Hartlepool, we run 2 main events during the year. One is the Burn Supper, which is a big event, attracts a great many people. We've an excellent piper who happens to be a DC now. A lot of the Caledonian Society people and so on, and it's a big night and we raise quite a bit of money. But our key one is our nautical night, which we've just had. And the banquet hall is actually transformed from dinner-suited masons to pirates, ship's captains, sailors in Guernseys, fishermen, smugglers, you name it. And we sing sea shanties, we have a lot of banter and good fun and that sort of thing, and we raise a fair good amount of money. Now that used to go to the RNLI, which is a very worthy cause, but they are a worthy organisation, but they are fairly wealthy. What we had a good look at then was our local sea cadets, who depend entirely on voluntary. So over the last few years we have ploughed what we raise. The other interesting aspect of that is, in fact, the lodges, the charities, the lodges in Hartlepool have formed a charity company. So what we raise as a lodge for our particular charity, and the other lodges do the same, then the charity company doubles it for the recipients and that sort of thing. So the community benefits, the community acknowledges it. Well, we are faced with a dilemma these days, diversity interests and so on. And it's keeping new members stimulated and interested. I think there's a limit to mock ceremonies, that sort of thing. And I like to see occasionally the good old Hope of Karachi. You have your meeting, you have a paper, you go down to the festive board, you have a meal, and after that you open up a discussion among the present, that sort of thing. And that can work.
Oh no, I must say, I mean, I agree wholly with what you're saying. I know whenever we started going across to Hope of Karachi, probably one of Scotland's premier research lodges in those days, it was bringing in significant people from England, from Ireland, and from further afield. And it was a small venue, and yet it had world-class speakers. And it was a very challenging environment for a few years. There were some good papers and some interesting discussions. And some very interesting characters in the midst of all that. And most of those people that we met then have all gelled over the years, and we all go to each other's events in Manchester or in Scotland, or indeed over here in Ireland. And it all adds to the great human mix and helps us all to enjoy ourselves. Now, I'm just wondering if there are any other thoughts that you care to share with us.
Well, one of my great regrets actually is I felt that Canonbury was a tremendous opportunity where all aspects of the craft from all over Europe, America and so on could meet together, share and discuss. And even if the jurisdictions weren't in full recognition, we were not meeting in lodge, meeting as such. We were meeting in an open forum discussion on matters of Masonic interest, which was dear in their own way to everybody present.
Oh, that's true.
And I hope, in fact, that an institution like Canonbury can, in fact, be reinstated.
Oh, I think there is a place for Canonbury, and I do believe that that side of our order, the interest in that is still strong right across all three home constitutions, and I think that Canonbury will be revitalised in the not too distant future. But it's been very interesting as always talking to you.
Can I say that one of my major highlights, in fact, was having been standard bearer in the chapter. I was invited as part of the group who were at Raby Castle.
Oh yes.
For His Lordship's valedictory.
Yes.
And that was an outstanding event.
Yeah, well imagine.
The other thing that sticks in my mind very clearly, I've many anecdotes and that sort of thing which time won't let us go into, but the impression that the Grand Lodge of Ireland, with its facilities covering all the orders, the absolute beauty of the Grand Temple, that sort of thing. Most inspirational.
Well, you see, you stole my last question there, Bill, because I was going to play devil's advocate and asked you, as a man who has now experienced Scottish Freemasonry and English Freemasonry and then Irish Freemasonry, I'm delighted to hear that the one that takes your interest is indeed the Irish Freemasonry.
That's not to decry the others.
Why, I wouldn't for one moment decry the others. But
they all have their different aspects and their values and that sort of thing. But I think folks should not forget that the three sister constitutions work in harmony.
Oh, that's true.
With that irremovable objective, a belief in the great architect.
Oh, yes, yes. We have a long and proud record going back to 1725, and it's a pleasure to have this opportunity to share some thoughts with you. As always, you're provocative, and you've given us some things to mull over, and I hope that our viewers will enjoy learning a little bit about the Scottish Mason who came to England and became an Irish Freemason. And we're delighted to have you with us once again. Thank you very much.